Alright, so bottom left table is the one we're looking at right now. And we raise ace-10 offsuit pre. Flop, great flop for our hand. We get check raised. A little bit of a decision to 3-bet or call here. Probably call most of the time, especially with the stack depths. He's probably planning on barreling off a decent amount of like aces. And it's we also don't want to get in 175 180 big blinds against the range that he's comfortable getting in with on this flop. Kind of saves us money when we're behind, etc. Still definitely call. It's check raise. A little worried because he hasn't check raised nearly a lot to make this like, oh yes, I'm really pumped about everything going on right now, especially with the dry texture of the board. But sorry for these sniffles. This humidity's killing me right now. So we call again, and I think we get a 7 on the turn. Not the worst turn card, because he'll continue bluffing with like his backdoor spades, his 7-6 type hands. He'll probably continue bluffing, and then he's probably the jack's not the best card for us because he could have like jack 9, jack 8. Really tough spot here. Normally against a lot of aggressive opponents that I've characterized as I have on this player, I would say, oh well, he's crazy, he's capable of doing all these things, pretty easy call here. But his check raising on the flop, especially on these type of boards, has been so low, and pretty much every time he's shown up with a line like this, it's been for value, and against a value range, we're basically beating like maybe king 10, maybe tying with like ace 10, maybe queen 10 would take this line, but we're running into some really tough problems with that. And against the value lines, I don't know. I could see Marshall's reason for folding there. I think I would probably look him up when out playing, and then go back and think, wow, that was probably a bad call with how things were going. But I think that's a really, really, really tough spot there. Against most players who are as capable and aggressive as our opponent, again, I think it's definitely a call. But the only thing that's skewing it for me is the fact that he hasn't, as I just said, taken that check raise and then standard bet line of normal amounts yet. And when he does do those things, he's shown up with only like sets and really good hands. And when that's kind of his MO of doing that, he's not going to take value or take bluffs and take those lines. He'd rather take bluffs with the lines he's more comfortable with, which are these kind of crazier lines like the 270 into like 180 with the jack 10 type deal. And that's definitely something to be thought of as we're sitting out across all the tables. Kind of a closing thought is that whenever someone takes a line that is that deviates from their normal value lines, it's probably a value line, because if they were going to bluff, they always think, well, I want to mimic all my value lines, so they'll go for that. Obviously, the better players will have those balanced out a little bit and have multiple value lines available in order to be comfortable with multiple bluffing lines, and this player is definitely one of his better players, so that's the reason of that I kind of want to call and swing back to a call on that ace-10 hand, as I say, okay, he hasn't taken that line for a bluff yet, and he knows that we should be acknowledging that as a value line then, so he might go one step further, kind of like he did with the spades hand, and just say, okay, I'm going to be overbet bluffing here, where he won't expect me to do it. Same difference is I'll be bluffing here with a really, really standard check raise, dry flop, bet turn, bet river, kind of smallish compared to his other bet sizes, and I'll garner a lot of folds by kind of, I'm crazy all the time, so when I act normal, it's crazy to my opponent. That type of deal.